Welcome everyone, thanks for being here. This is the Entrepreneurship Speaker Series, sponsored by Hillcrest Bank. We have a super cool speaker today. His name is Braden Yardley, and he has an interesting story. So he came here to SUU, was a pitcher for the SUU baseball team. This is, so when I first came here, baseball was a really big deal. It's about kind of where basketball is now in terms of kind of the enthusiasm for the sport. They changed that in 2012, but baseball was a really big deal, and Braden was a pitcher for the baseball team here at SUU. I should mention too, he graduated with a degree in outdoor recreation and tourism, and after that he went on to get a master's degree in environmental sustainability from Virginia Tech, which is a legitimately difficult program and a very prestigious degree. So he had an event with a broken glove that kind of launched him along the path to start a company called Reglove, which was focused on repairing and restoring and reusing old gloves, and that gave way to launching Yardley Sports, which manufactures premium baseball gloves, and with a focus on environmental sustainability. And we are very glad to have with us today Braden Yardley.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I saw a few friends walk in, including an old elementary school teacher. It's just great to be back here. I told myself that I was not going to be emotional about this, but I feel like it's an authentic display of how hard this has been. So if I cry, I'm sorry. Blame my mom. She cries about everything. But I feel like, I was telling my wife this on the way up, I feel like this business has been kind of a mix of heaven and hell and everything in between. It's really difficult, but it's so worth it. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to raise your hand and ask. I don't mind the dialogue, but I will leave some time at the end to talk as well. And I hope you enjoy this. This has been an incredible journey for me, and thanks for taking your time to be here today. All right, so that's me. I was 12 years old. We went down to Phoenix every year growing up. My grandparents lived down there. We'd go down there to spring training, and I got a new baseball glove for my birthday. Fell asleep on the couch with it. I've always loved baseball. So in business, there's a lot of acronyms. I don't know what half of them mean. There's CEOs, there's CFOs, there's MBAs, there's a list of things that typically follow somebody's title that's in business. But for me, I'm just a dude that loves baseball. I just love baseball gloves, and I just happen to own a business. So you'll see that my passion comes from that, and I've learned a lot about business along the way. So there's a quote that I really wanted to share with you. It comes from Andy Rooney, and it says, "Everyone wants to live at the top of the mountain, but all the joy, experience, and happiness comes while you're climbing it." I feel like I'm in the middle of that climb. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Like was mentioned, I got my degree in outdoor recreation. It was the only degree that I felt like I could do. I was not good in business school, but I figured if there's a degree where you could go hike, like I could probably do that. So if you're struggling, you know, that's a pretty easy degree to get here. Anyways, I feel like I'm on that climb, and I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about that. There's a thread through this presentation I want you to think of: friendships, networks, and opportunities. The more I've thought about my business, those three things really stand out to me and mean the most to me. And so I'm going to talk a lot about that today. All right. I didn't want myself up there sleeping the whole time, so I had to change the slides. So I started Yardley Sports in December of 2020. But I want to go back to about 25 years ago, which is kind of embarrassing to say. A lot of you probably aren't even 25. Makes me realize how old I am. But I grew up here in Cedar City, and I loved playing sports. I loved playing baseball, basketball. And at that time, the Utah Summer Games, they had a baseball tournament. This was one of the biggest baseball tournaments in Utah. So we put a group of friends together and we decided we were going to compete. And we did really good. We kind of surprised ourselves. We actually won. And during that tournament, we faced off against a pitcher that would go on to be drafted. And in that moment, I realized we're pretty good at this. I played pretty well. Maybe there's a chance if I work really hard, I can play college baseball someday. So that was my goal. So over the next few years, I learned to do some illegal things. Not steroids or anything, not like that associated with baseball. But I learned to pick locks. I learned how to crack doors open and to leave windows open at Cedar High School, because in the basement of Cedar High School is a dungeon. And if any of you went to Cedar High School, you know this. There's like 5 batting cages down there, a couple pitcher's mounds. And there was an old radio that I'd turn on and listen to Power 91. But it was just me by myself, just working and working and working, trying to be the best that I could be. And like I said, it was hard. I mean, if you've been down there, it's kind of scary. But I went down there every day with the idea in mind, and I think this really applies to business. If you outwork people, when opportunity comes and you need to succeed and perform, if you've outworked those people that you're going against, you don't really have anything to fear. You can be successful. So in my mind, I thought if I work harder than everybody, when it comes down to it, if I'm up to bat and I'm facing off against a pitcher, there's no way this guy outworked me. If I got to face off against a hitter, I'm like, oh, this guy's toast. I've outworked everybody. So it really was to my advantage. It worked out well. I ended up coming to SUU to play college baseball. So I fulfilled my first goal along this journey. But it came with a lot of hard work and sacrifice. That's kind of carried over to this business that I have now, where it's DIY, grassroots. If I can do something on my own, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to learn and work as hard as I can to be the best business owner and to provide the best products I can. So this is kind of funny. If you're a basketball fan, you probably know the Allen Iverson clip where he says, like, practice, talking about practice, man. But he also said something really great. He said, when you are not practicing, someone else is. So had the opportunity to come to SUU. That's me pitching at SUU. That's not our stadium. That's up at the University of Utah. And at SUU, I was there from 2005 to 2010. My greatest achievements weren't on the field. In fact, I wish that I had played better at times. I didn't fulfill everything I wanted to goal-wise. But one thing that I got in college was I developed some of the best friends I could ever ask for. Friendships, networks, opportunities, right? So when I was in college, I'm going to actually grab this glove. It's kind of cool to bring it back here for me. This is a glove that I was playing catch with, and my throwing partner, he threw hard, throws the ball to me one day during my junior year, and the ball goes right through the web. And I was like, oh, great. What am I going to do? So being in college, SUU, we didn't have glove sponsorships or anything. I was like, I got to go find a new glove. Had $100, went and bought a new glove, and it was terrible. Did not like it at all. So I was like, well, I really like this glove. This is a good glove, but there's no way like I can fix this. This looks way too complicated. I'm sure some machine does it. And so I just set it aside. And then I went to the sporting goods store, and my coach was like, well, my high school coach was like, hey, I could fix that for you. And I was like, there's no way this guy's touching my glove. So what I started to do was I started to figure out, how can I fix gloves on my own? So I started going to thrift stores. I started talking to teammates. I took my name and number to a local sporting goods store and said, if anybody needs their gloves fixed, I can do it. I couldn't do it. I had no idea what I was doing. But I figured if I just jumped in, that I'd figure it out. So I learned to fix gloves. And this picture's kind of funny because typically, like as a pitcher, when they're like, Yardley, go get ready, it's like, oh, sweet, there's a big moment. They really need me to come in and do well here. Well, they called me to come in and fix gloves, right? So during this game, our first baseman, he would always buy the cheapest baseball glove you could imagine. And he liked it because they were broken in. So a ball goes through his web, and they're like, Yardley, we need you. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. No, we need you to fix Bucky's glove. So I was like, all right. So we pull all these tools out of the trainer's bags, and I hurry. I'm like scrambling as fast as I can, and I fix the glove. Bucky went out the next inning and was able to play. So my greatest achievement didn't even come on the diamond. It came from fixing gloves. I was reminded of that story a few weeks ago by one of my teammates. I thought it was funny. But those experiences were really good. I remember I had a teammate, James Crockett, and we would sit on the back of the bus on these trips. So our coach didn't let us fly anywhere. Like we drove, I've almost hit every 50 states. We drove everywhere on these buses. But James and I would just sit there and screw around on gloves in the back, and gained a really good appreciation for fixing gloves and became pretty good at it. So fast forward, let's see here. Fast forward to talking a little bit about Reglove. So in 2010, I graduate from SUU. I'm fixing gloves just for fun, getting better at it. And I was also working for the Bureau of Land Management during this time. And there's this great thing called a government shutdown. It's when sides can't agree, so the government shuts down and you have like usually 2 to 3 weeks to do whatever you want if you're a federal employee. And I thought, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm finally going to start this business, Reglove. One, I need the money. I'm out of a job. I have the opportunity and I've got the skill. So I ended up taking those 2 weeks. One of the best things I did, and what I would encourage anybody that wants to start a business to do, I set up an appointment with the Small Business Development Center, got legit, and created a sole proprietorship business called Reglove. This came after a lot of thought. One of the things that really propelled this was a discussion that I had at Virginia Tech University. So you can imagine, like, I'm in environmental science. We talk about things like trees, we talk about things like water, and we talked about recycling all the time. Like, every discussion was about recycling. I was like, oh, this is so boring, it's so easy. You just throw the paper in the blue bin and everything takes care of itself. But then somebody brought up this thing called upcycling. I was like, upcycling, that's pretty cool. And so people would take old products and find new uses for them. It's exactly what I had been doing with baseball gloves. So this idea, I'm sitting there thinking about this. I'm like, recycling, glove, Reglove. That's it. That's my business name, Reglove. I'm going to recycle baseball gloves, and then I'm going to take these old ones and turn them into leather products like wallets and different things. There's a lot of baseball gloves available in the world, so I would go to thrift stores and I would just purchase everything I could find. And one day I walked in, I'm going through these bins, and I pull out a Wilson A2000. So if you're a baseball player, softball player, A2000s, great gloves. And this one wasn't in that bad a shape, it had just broke. And I was like, well, I can fix that. $2. I'm like walking up the counter, smiling. The lady's like, what's wrong with you? You know, got this big grin on my face. It's like I'd hit the lottery. So I take this $2 glove, I fix it, and go on eBay and I sell it for $100. And so now I've got a little bit of equity. I've got some sweat equity. I'm going to fix this glove. I'm going to take that $100 and I am literally going to buy as much lace as I can with this. And I'm going to just see what happens from here. So a lot of my initial investment and this business started with a $2 glove and skills, friendships, and opportunities. I fix the glove, and now I have some money, and I build this cart. You can see a little bit of it here. And I was just using it in my front room to fix gloves, and I put some ads out on KSL. And this guy called me and goes, hey, I saw your ad. I want you to fix my glove. I'm at a baseball tournament if you could come and pick it up. So I went to pick it up, and I saw another booth there. They were selling hats, and I thought, well, man, there's like 400 kids running around here. I should bring my little cart here and start setting up and selling and fixing gloves on site. So I asked him, I said, hey, I got this cart that I built. Can I bring this over tomorrow and fix gloves on site? And he goes, sure, why not? So this is a picture of me. This is the first time I set up in 2013. That's my little brother watching me, which is kind of special. And just started from there. And it really helped me to build a network of friendship, community. The community around baseball in Utah is strong, and it's been one of my biggest supporters. But so with Reglove, around this same time, there was some other things that had happened. So how many of you have heard about the best business idea competitions? Do they still do those, like where you can take an idea in front of a group here at the business school and then they'll give you some seed money to start up? So I found out about this one and I was like, perfect, I'm going to go sell my idea. I took third place. They gave me $500, which was sweet, but that was enough for me to get a sewing machine. So now I can do more repairs and do more things. And so now I'm sewing and doing all these things. And my little brother, he goes, there's this thing called Instagram. I'm like, what's that? Is it like MySpace or something? And he goes, you should post some pictures of what you're doing on there. So I started posting pictures of myself working on gloves, and I started getting calls from like big time companies. So one of the first companies to call me was Yardley Sports. They didn't have anybody in-house that was really well skilled in fixing gloves, and they didn't really have the time to do it, so they started contracting out to me to do their gloves. And then Adidas called. And Adidas was making a really big push at this time to try to get their gloves into the Major League Baseball market. But again, they didn't have anybody to work on gloves here in the United States for them. So they would send me gloves, and I would sit in my apartment right here in Cedar City, and I'd hand paint them. I'd put different colored laces in them. And then we would send these gloves to professional players. So one of these players was James Shields. Around 2015, he had signed a huge contract, so he's one of the big market free agents. Adidas signs him to a glove deal, but they don't make the glove that James Shields wants. I'm like, wow, that's pretty embarrassing for Adidas. So they called me, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I figured I'd give it a shot. So I took this glove that they had sent me, reconfigured a web and put it on there, put it together, and my mom helped me. She actually dropped it off at UPS for me, which was really cool. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I hope this works out. I hope this works out. And then I got a text a couple days later. Shields got the gloves. He loves it. Great job. I saved that note in my phone for a long time just to remind myself, like, hey, you can do this, because running a business is hard. Like I said, it's not always easy. So those types of things were really good and impactful for me. It gave me the confidence that I needed to keep going. And so Adidas, they reached out again, and this one was kind of funny, but there is a correlation between Reglove and Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg needed a glove for softball tournaments, so I got to work on Snoop Dogg's glove. That was so cool. Right here in Cedar, I made a glove for Snoop Dogg. So kind of funny. But while I was doing all these things and having all these great connections happen, one of the most impactful connections happened. One of the players I was coaching in baseball said, hey, I have this neighbor that works on leather. I think you should meet him. And I was like, okay. So I set up this arrangement to meet this guy, and I walk into his house, and he's got he literally has guns sitting on his desk. He's this huge dude. He's got a big beard. And he's gruff. He's like, I'll help you out, but just know I don't want to. And and I've had a lot of people that I work with that don't pay me on time, and they're not grateful. So if you don't do those two things, you're out of here. I was like, all right, dude. I'm honest, and I'm really grateful for what you're doing. Well, that guy's name was Kent Forbush. One of my very best friends. He taught me everything I know about leather. We would spend hours in his basement stitching, sewing, learning how to paint gloves. He helped me with my first wallets that I made out of repurposed baseball gloves. And he taught me about these things called clicker dies or stamps. And they're like big cookie cutters, and you put them under this machine, and then your leather comes out perfectly cut. It was amazing. We had so many great experiences together, and I feel like his spirit and what he taught me lives on in me. Every time I work on leather, I think of him. I love him, and I'm just so grateful for those friendships, connections, and opportunities. They're there if you try to get in the game. If you get off the sidelines and just give it your all, you will find those same things. There's friendships, there's networks, there's opportunities for everybody. Everybody's got that opportunity. And I sincerely apologize if I get a little emotional. Talk about this next part. Oh, there's me I upgraded. I upgraded from my cart to another cart. I made this cart in my garage. If you followed Reglove, I've had like 5 trailers. I've made them all except for my last one. Cannot tell you the fear I experienced pulling these trailers down I-15. I'm like, oh my gosh, I made this in my garage. I hope I make it to Salt Lake. I always did. So, but this was what I did for such a long time. So this next part, and I'm going to come back to this at the end, but this was a really important part of my journey. Kent introduced me to a fellow named Craig Harrison. And Craig Harrison is an artist from St. George, Utah, but he had a son that passed away in a tragic accident. And he called me one day and said, hey, I have a box of gloves that I want to give to you. They're my son's. He had a dream of doing exactly what you're doing. He wanted to fix gloves, go out to tournaments just like you. And man, I was certainly humbled, and I agreed to go meet him. Quite different than meeting Kent, you know. Craig was warm, welcoming. We had so many connections and friendships. We knew the same people. We ran in the same circles. We both loved baseball. And at the end of our meeting, he took me downstairs and into KJ's room. And I remember a few things. He pulled out a box full of gloves and lace and tools. And then there was just like the most highest amount of smiley faces I've ever seen in my life. This kid had every trinket with that little yellow smiley face you could ever imagine. He had pillows, stuffed animals, bouncy balls, everything. His whole room was just full of smiles. And so I thought that was really cool, and that was very impactful for me at that time. So I took these gloves, and I was like, oh man, I can't take these. This belonged to his son. And I was like, I got to do something with it. So I called him and I said, hey, I'll take these gloves, but I want to do something different. I want to write KJ's initials on them. Tell me what number he was. He's number 6. His number's retired at Snow Canyon High School. It's on the fence in the outfield. I said, I want to give these to kids, and let's start this thing called the KJ6 Initiative. And he goes, sounds good. You do what you want. So after that, Craig and I worked really closely together, and we've distributed over 500 gloves throughout the world. They've gone to Germany, Dominican Republic, Brazil. And through this experience, I just feel really grateful that I had the opportunity to do that, because there's people that, like KJ, that would love to be able to do what I did. I feel an extreme amount of responsibility to do a good job. To be honest, to work hard, because I've been given this great opportunity. So meeting Craig Harrison has been the most impactful part of this journey for me. He's one of my greatest friends, and he's been my biggest asset in my business. All right, moving along. There we go. So in 2016, I sat down and I was like, I want to start this company, Yardley Sports. I went to lunch with this guy that was in business, and I told him, I'm going to make my own baseball gloves. And he goes, that'll never happen. You don't know it. You don't know how to do that. You don't know the people to do that. And if any of you have seen The Last Dance, like Michael Jordan used to make up stuff like this person hated his mom, and then he would like go off for 40 points against him. And I was like, well, that dude he just poured gasoline on a fire within me. I'm going to take that Michael Jordan mentality now, and I'm going to prove this guy wrong. I can do it. And so in 2016, I sat down and I made a glove. I'm going to show you this glove. It is so bad. This is horrible. Look at this thing. Like, I sat down one night. I think I stayed up all night long. I was like, I'm going to make a glove. The only thing I want to do is be able to play catch with my brother with it. And you can't even close this thing. It's so bad. So I made this, and I've held on to it. I don't hold on to a lot of things, but this one's funny. It's not even the right leather. Nothing good about it. But it was a start. And I made a logo. So I drew out this logo in cursive with a baseball bat, and it said Yardley. And few years go by, I still have this idea. I'm like messing around with gloves, trying to get better at making them. One of my friends that had left the glove industry reached out to me and said, I think that you could make your own gloves. And I was like, that's interesting. This guy believes in me, that's cool. And he goes, and I want to help you make these connections, and I want to help you do it. Under one condition, you have to use your name. He goes, I think Yardley's a good baseball name. I was like, thanks, man. That sounds great. I will use my name. I had this already planned out like 3 years ago, so that was no problem for me. So there it was. Yardley Sports was born in 2019. And I made connections with the Korea Sports Manufacturing Group and a guy named Mr. Kim. And Mr. Kim is a good man. Like I said, I think part of my business and why I'm so enthused about it is because it is done sustainably. It's done with people in mind. I don't use factories that don't pay people well. I try to make sure that his spirit of treating people well and his workers carries on through me as well. So I'm very proud to say that working with this group meets all my criteria. I feel like I work with the best people in the world. And surrounding yourself with good people is vitally important, especially in business, because things don't always go this way. And in manufacturing, you can't always trust who you're working with. Undoubtedly, I trust these people. They are good people. So I'm working with the Korea Sports Manufacturing, Mr. Kim, and we designed these gloves that you see above me. And I had this idea in mind. I always wanted to trace this back to my roots with Reglove. I thought, well, let's start something called Build-A-Glove. It could be kind of like Build-A-Bear. People could come and choose which color of glove they want. They could choose which web they want and then which color of lace, and I'd put their name on it for them. And then I would video these, and then I'd individually number them and sign them, and I send it to the first 100 customers. So that first initial 100 gloves paid off really well. I was able to order more gloves after that. But it all started with this Build-A-Glove lineup. So from there, some cool things started to happen. I'm glad one of my friends is with me today because he got to experience this. Starting with Build-A-Glove, there's a few things that I had to do. Not everybody is given a lot of money to start businesses. I didn't have a lot, but I had some skills that I had developed. I could fix gloves. I knew gloves inside and out. I had met with so many people, done all these calls with different groups to try to get a website built. And I wanted this thing where I could actually make my own gloves. You could design them and everything. And it's like every time I talk to these people, they came back and they're like, this is $35,000. This is $75,000. And I thought, I have to learn to do all this stuff on my own because I'm never going to make it. So I spent a lot of time, in addition to working on gloves, teaching myself how to use tools online, taught myself how to program websites, taught myself how to build all these things, and built up through sweat equity all the assets I had. Every logo that was made, every website that was made, every sticker, every single thing was going just through me and the Korea Sports Manufacturing Group. It led to some awesome opportunities. I knew the business inside and out. So one of the things, because I'm in complete control of my business, I see all the messages that come. I answer every email, call, and text. And I received an email in 2020 from a guy named Kenny Holmberg. He worked with the Texas Rangers as a baseball coach. And he said, I've got some gloves I'd like you to work on. I see what you're doing on Instagram. So another Instagram connection. And he goes, how much would it be? And I thought, well, what if I just say, I'll give you a stack of business cards, please hand them out, see what happens with that. Well, that was a great deal for him. He got some free repairs, and I got to send this stack of business cards to Kenny Holmberg with the Rangers. A year later, around that same time, my wife and I moved to Surprise, Arizona. So we lived right outside of this spring training complex in Arizona. And it was amazing. I was working out of my garage, and every day I was having professional baseball players come over to my house to have their gloves worked on. And I held them down too. Like when they would come over, I'm like, tell me what you like about your glove. What are you being taught? Why is your glove shaped this way? What's the new thing with this design? Why are you doing that? And they were so cool. They would tell me everything. And so I had all these amazing conversations with these players just in my garage, and it really started to influence and make my gloves stand out from everyone else's. Another thing I got as a result of this connection was I got invited to spring training. So you remember the picture of me asleep with my glove. When I was a kid, I used to run around these complexes all the time. My parents just gave me a backpack, bag of baseballs, and said, go have fun. But there's always a sign that says authorized personnel. You can't go beyond this point. Well, when I got invited to spring training, I got to go past that point, and I got to go park in the Rangers parking lot. They brought me in. I'm walking in with the trainer, and I'm shaking a little bit because I'm so excited. And Corey Seager walks by. If you're a baseball fan, you might know him. He is a World Series MVP, star shortstop, one of my favorite players. I'm hitting the trainer as I'm walking. I'm like, dude, did you just see Corey Seager walk by? How cool is that? And he's like, well, yeah, I work around him every day. Who is this guy, right? And then I see Marcus Semien. I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude's so much bigger in person. And then I saw Jacob deGrom, and I was like, he's tall too. And I was like, I'm his same age, and I feel like a little kid. It was so cool. I felt like I had finally made it to the big leagues. I'm in spring training. The next year I got to go with my friend in the back. We had a great time. We saw the Texas Rangers coach walk down the hallway to get skin cancer tested with his shirt off. We were dying laughing. All these things are so funny. Couldn't believe we had the opportunity to do it. The Texas Rangers, I love that organization. They're built on class and character. They represent the same things that I wanted to in my business. In 2023, when they won the World Series, I felt like I won the World Series. I had multiple gloves, not of my own, but gloves I had worked on that the players were wearing. The trainers had wallets in their back pocket that I had made them that hold nail files, Band-Aids. So when a pitcher's being a little weak and he's got a little, cut on his finger, they go out and fix it. They were carrying wallets that I had made for them. I saw notebooks on the top rail of the dugout that I had made for the Rangers. I felt like I was right there with them. It was so awesome. I was at an ultimate high, right? These are the types of things you dream of. And then I had a glove in the big leagues. So I made my Major League Baseball debut. I worked for the Bureau of Land Management, BLM. One of the kids I used to coach in baseball would always say, Coach, don't feel bad that you didn't make it to the MLB, because BLM is MLB backwards. I'm like, all right, that was as close as I was going to get at the time. But I finally made it. I had a friend text me and say, hey, do you know your glove is being worn at Yankee Stadium right now? And I was like, no. But I turned on the game and I saw it, and that was really, really cool. I felt so humbled. I've had so many, I haven't done this on my own. I've had so many friends, the connections, the networks that I've made that have helped me get to this point. For me, this was just a beautiful moment. But during this time, what you don't see, life kind of sucked. I wasn't doing good at all. When they say businesses take your blood, sweat, and tears, I was literally felt sick inside. I was crying sometimes because I felt so bad, bleeding because I'm trying to fix all these gloves. My hands are always screwed up now from baseball gloves. And sweating because we lived in Phoenix, so it was super hot. I'm doing all this stuff in my garage. And I just wasn't doing the things that I used to love. I wasn't riding my bike anymore. I wasn't going hiking. Definitely didn't have the best friendships with my family as distance from people. I had to figure it out and pull myself out of it. I really love this quote by Derek Jeter. And it says, the game of baseball is a great teacher of life. It teaches you how to handle failure, how to deal with adversity, and how to persevere through difficult times. I knew I could pull myself up. Then I had this experience where I was like, I can't do this anymore. The business isn't as profitable as I had hoped. I need to start looking for another job. And so I found this job with a company called Nakona. They make baseball gloves in the USA. They had their headquarters in Phoenix. It was perfect. I was like, oh man, this would be a shoe, and I could get this job so easy. And so I applied. I got an interview, and I thought, oh man, if I'm going to interview with this company, I better go to Nakona so I know what they're doing there. And so I called my wife. She was working, and I said, hey, I'm driving to Nakona, Texas. I'll be back in like 2 days. And I loaded up like a cooler full of sandwiches, grabbed like a sleeping bag and a pillow because I like to sleep in my truck. Drives my mom crazy, but it saves money. So I was going to sleep in my truck in a parking lot in Texas and drive to Nakona, which I did. I ended up driving to Nakona, Texas, and this is so beautiful. This is just how things work sometimes. Craig Harrison was passing through Nakona at that same time. Oh, it was so awesome. So I got to go on this tour with my best friend in the world. So we go through this thing. I go back. I have the interview with Nakona. I'm sitting there. And the lady goes to the question I knew she was going to ask. Have you ever been to Nakona? And I was like, okay, this is my moment. I was like, yes, I have. In fact, I drove there like 5 days ago. And she was like, you drove there? And I was like, yep. She goes, I'm going to get the CEO. She went and got the CEO. He came in. We finished our interview. They called and they offered me a job a day later. So I thought, this is awesome. I'm going to be out of this hole that I felt like I was in. I can have some stability financially. I was working super hard with Yardley Sports. It took everything. I was working like 18-hour days. I just wanted a break. And then they wanted to buy my business. And I thought, oh, this is sweet. I'm going to be able to pay off my house. And they offered me like $50,000. They wanted everything. They wanted my computers. They wanted my sewing machines. They wanted every single lace that I had, every tool that I had. They literally wanted everything. It was worth way more than that, not to mention the intellectual knowledge and everything that I felt like I had worked for and earned. And I was so desperate, and like I said, I wasn't in a good place. I thought, I've got to do this. This is my only way out. And thankfully, there's people in your lives that say the right things at the right time. And Cammie, my wife, she goes, if you do this, I will never look at you the same again. I was like, wow. I was so mad. I was like, I had to take a walk, for a while. And then I thought, you know what? She's exactly right. So I turned it down. It was the best decision I've ever made, business-wise. I've made other good decisions. Obviously, marrying Cammie, getting that advice was like, right up there. So I learned how to get through this difficult time. So like, what am I going to do now? I feel like I'm starting to turn things around. I need to enjoy this more. These next quotes, I love them. Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite baseball player of all time, said some great things. When you have fun, it turns all the pressure into pleasure. And as long as I have fun playing, the stats will take care of themselves. As long as I have fun doing my business, try to put my best foot forward, everything else is going to take care of itself. And that's what started to happen. So after this, got even more hands-on with gloves. We took a trip to Korea. This is me with Choi and Che, and we're making gloves. So I was able to go from this here to this glove right here. This is the one we're working on. This is a Korean style catcher's mitt, so it looks a little weird. It is a little weird. Really shallow pocket. But I learned how to make them. Now I've got these friends across the ocean. We message each other back and forth. They give me tips and advice. And I got this awesome certificate. I love SUU, but this is way cooler than my diploma. I got a certificate that says I know how to make baseball gloves from an organization in Korea. And we got a picture with all these people that taught myself and treated my wife and I so great when we were there. So things started to get better. I'm having more fun now at this point. I really want to share this. I hope it loads. This is why I love baseball. Okay, baseball is a worldwide sport. I'm trying to have more fun and enjoy it more this time. These guys in Korea, they take us to a baseball game. This is called the KBO. We'll see if this plays. All right, so you can't hear this. Oh, there you go. All right, baseball's fun. I love it. My whole mindset changed towards how can I make this the most enjoyable thing that I do? So this is a picture from San Diego. This is, it's called Pathway. They invite all the best players from around the country to be there. I was a sponsor. I got to see my name on the field. I felt like I was right there with those guys. This one's really special to me. I upgraded trailers, obviously. Highway safe. The best feeling knowing that you can pull this beautiful trailer right down the road. Nothing's going to happen. So that's my new trailer. This is my dad's in this picture, my brother-in-law, my nephew, and we had a Yardley Sports team this year out of Beaver, Utah. They actually won a few games too, which was kind of cool. We didn't expect them to. And then this is me. Earlier this month, we went to the ABCA, that's the American Baseball Coaches Association trade show. It's the largest trade show in the world for baseball. There was over 1,000 vendors and 8,000 participants, but there was only one person there making gloves. Mr. Kim and I had this dream that after I got trained, he goes, now you can go to ABCA and you can make gloves in front of people. And I did that. And one of the cool things about this photo, this was sent to me from another factory in China. They were there trying to get me to use them, but I'm Korea loyal. I'm sticking with my guys. They were trying to get me to use them, but they took the time afterwards to send me this photo. And they said, you're one of only 5 Americans we know that can make gloves. It was a pleasure to meet you. I was super humbled by that. That was so cool. I can't believe they sent me that when I think about it. It's just awesome. This is me. I love baseball. I'm grinning like a kid. I was at the Tennessee Tanning Company earlier this month. This is where every Major League Baseball originates from. So they make all the leather. It's super proprietary. They don't want people to know their recipes. They've got them under, actually in safes, one in Tennessee and one in St. Louis. They took us back into the back. We got to see all about it. And one of the things that I thought was cool was Shohei Ohtani. He reached the 50-50 club, 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. That baseball sold for like $6 million. And I'm sitting there with the factory workers that are making these baseballs, and I said, do you realize that this material you just made just turned into $6 million? And we kind of laughed and had a moment there thinking about that. But that was a really cool experience. I've worked with these people for a long time, finally got to meet them, and just enjoyed the heck out of it. This is my wife, Cammie, and I. Big Chicago Cubs fans. We got to go and tour a factory there. And this is my dad and brother, and we're at Coors Field. One funny thing about this is one time Cammie and I went to Denver. We had a player that needed some work done, and he goes, meet me during the game. And I was like, shouldn't he be focused on the game? Got a text from him during the 7th inning. He goes, hey, I'm coming out to the bullpen. I'll text you when I'm out there. We get the text. Cammie and I walk around. He comes out of the bullpen, shakes all his guys' hands, does his thing, and looks up at Cammie and I and waves. And we're talking to this Major League Baseball player during a game, during the Rockies game. And we dropped him a bag of wallets made out of old baseball gloves, and he still uses them today. In fact, we saw him at the ABCA, and he came to tell us about that. So I told you I'd come back to Craig Harrison at the end in the KJ6 initiative. This is the Brazilian national team, and this is a box of baseballs with the KJ6 logo on them. Believe it or not, even a national team has a hard time getting equipment. So with the help of some friends in St. George, we got the Brazilian national team some baseballs to practice with. Again, spreading the power of positivity, trying to do the best we can with baseball and enjoy every moment of it. This is a logo for the KJ6 initiative. A friendly reminder to smile, to enjoy your journey. Baseball is a beautiful game. And I'm not going to lie, being a business owner is very hard. But when I see this out there, it makes it all worth it. So one of the things that Craig told me that I wanted to share with you about this logo is that after his son passed away, as you can imagine, they had a really difficult time. But he said that the smiley face would show up at the most needed moments. He said that he was at Richfield at a drive-in, and he saw a smiley face on a tip jar on the day he needed it. And he told the cashier, he's like, I'm taking this tip jar. She's like, no, you're not. That's my money. But that's how impactful it was. He told me he would have bought that for all the money in the world that day. So if nothing else, I hope that Yardley Sports can continue to be an avenue to promote happiness and growth through the game of baseball. I've developed the best friendships I've ever had through that game. I've made the most amazing connections and network through that game. And as young students here looking to do whatever you're on to next, I promise you that as long as you just try to enjoy things a little bit more, you can find your initiative, you can find your Yardley Sports, and you can make a heck of an impact doing it. So I'm going to leave you my information. Thank you guys so much for listening to me today. I made it through without crying, which is awesome because I freaking cried the whole way up here. Tell my wife this story. She hadn't heard half of it, and she's like, that's okay. I think you'll get it out now. I got it out. So thank you so much. Here's my contact information, and we can leave a few minutes for questions. Yeah, go ahead.
What was the number one motivator that got you through everything? Like, what was the thing that kept you going?
That's a really good question. I think because I'm so passionate about baseball and want to be around the game, this is my way to stay active and involved in it. And so I have to keep going because I want to be involved with baseball. So yeah, it's kind of cheesy and cliche. You might have heard of the movie, The Love of the Game. It really is. I love baseball, and that's what keeps me going. And I also have a good network of friends, good faith. I think my faith in God helps me through all those struggles as well. So I'm grateful to have those things as pillars in my life.
If you weren't so passionate about baseball, would you be able to be the starting field? And do you think that's important in starting with field?
Yeah, for sure. Because I told you, I literally think running a business is heaven and hell. Like, and everything in between. Like, it freaking sucks sometimes. It's hard. And if you're not passionate about what you want to do with your business, if you don't believe in your idea, you're going to have a hard time. So just carry that belief. Try to find what it is that makes you enjoy it, and I think you can do it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.